All right, guys, we are live. This is Sherdog's live recap show for UFC 306. UFC Nocha, UFC O'Malley versus Dvalishvili, whatever you want to call it, whatever other gimmick the UFC came up with tonight. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is my my number one homie, or should I say, what's the word?
Just call me Kendrick Lamar, because tonight the UFC was going to call anybody Kendrick Lamar that they didn't recognize.
Did they?
Bud Crawford, a top 5 pound for pound boxer in the crowd, but he's a black dude with some like short braids, so he must be Kendrick Lamar. It was terrible.
They call. Oh, I missed. How did I miss that?
He was sitting right next to the Sheik guy that runs Riyadh Season.
Oh my
And
god!
no, they actually put a title on there: Kendrick Lamar, multiple Grammy and like Academy Award winning rapper.
That's fantastic.
And no, luckily, at least John Anik is like, no, that's Terrence Bud Crawford, guys. Like,
that's awesome. Anyways, we are recapping UFC 306. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We'll get to them, guys. It's freaking 2:24 a.m. This is nuts. So I will try to. We're gonna go a little faster than usual, guys. I gotta be at a softball game in like 5 hours. So what the fuck? Anyways, Ben, before we get to the recap and talk about these fights, you want to talk about MMA history? Because that's what I was loving. Get MMA history talk at like 1:30 in the fucking morning.
Whew. Yeah.
All right. Anyways, sorry. Guys, we had they were promoting this as one of the biggest cards ever. They were in the Spear. The main event, we had Mexican Independence Day. They kept talking about that, and we had a card headlined by an American versus a man from Georgia, the country. As Sean O'Malley defended his title against Merab Dvalishvili. How long do you think Merab will be the champion before I can properly pronounce his last name?
You know what? You're already doing pretty well. Like, I don't think that's bad. Like,
I say it really fast. I don't notice how bad I say it. Anyways.
Congratulations. You could be Bruce Buffer.
There you go. Merab won a unanimous decision. Scorecards are kind of all over the place, I should say. I'm going to say this. I'm going to continue to say this. Merab should now be 12-0 in the UFC.
13-0.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was 12 before. 13-0 in the UFC. He has taken the longest road to the title with respect to Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
And Sean O'Malley won some. I actually scored 2 rounds for O'Malley.
Same. So did I. I gave O'Malley 2 rounds.
But to me, like, I scored a 48-47, but it was the furthest 48-47 like I can remember it.
Yeah.
Like the rounds that I gave to O'Malley were like, maybe I'll give it to O'Malley. But the ones that I gave to Merab, like, okay, he clearly won every second of the round.
Completely on board with that.
I will say one thing about Merab. I mean, when you think about Merab is not one of these guys. Like, when you think of like talents in the UFC, he's not the guy who like jumps off the page with like when you watch some other guys, you're like, oh my god, like Ilia Topuria. Like when he was rising up the ranks, you're like, wow, look how amazing his talent is and his hand speed and all this. Merab's not that, but you know what Merab is? He does the 2 most important disciplines, and he does it great. The most important discipline, and I'll go to my grave saying this, is pace, pressure. He's the man at that. And the second one is wrestling. Like, those are the 2 most important disciplines, and he's a master of both of them. And that's why he's the champion.
Yes, and he is great at both of them in a way that is synergistic. They feed off of each other. His wrestling gets more and more effective usually as the fight goes along because he's making his opponent tired faster than he himself is getting tired. Yeah, when it's working, it is a wonder to behold. Like, he'll probably never be a casual favorite because he'll never be much of a finisher against top level opposition. But this shouldn't work, and it is working against the best fighters in the world. Like, he is, and he admits he's an overachiever. He's like, I'm not talented. I just work hard. look, a little guy is your champ. Like it's pretty awesome.
I literally called himself a little guy. I remember, oh God, it's probably 3-4 years ago. I was at a Bellator and I spotted Merab and he was like the third deck. Like we were walking, look up and there was Merab. Like he was in the stand sitting there. Like he was happy that someone recognized him. He was like a prelim fighter. So that's pretty cool that now he's headlining the Spear. Like what a way to like completely change. When we talked about when we broke down this fight, one thing we both kind of mentioned that it's an easy fight to break down. There was pretty much either O'Malley was going to start him or Merab was going to do exactly what he did today.
Yep.
Everything Merab did, like O'Malley did not put himself in a position to win. And what I mean by that is he needed to throw some feints out there, try to draw out the attacks, and then try to counter, catch him as he's coming in. He couldn't throw any kicks, which is such a big part of his game because Merab was going to catch it. He has to knock him out, so he has to sit on his punches. But he can't sit on his punches because when you sit on your punches, Merab can kind of time, you loading up, and then he can kind of get in, and you can't move your feet for the takedown. So to me, O'Malley was in such a disadvantage the entire fight. Like he did nothing offensively, and somehow it was like the best he could possibly have done, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's remarkable stuff. And the funny thing is somebody, and I wish I'd taken down their name or put it up on the screen, pointed out that when O'Malley did strike and feint a little bit, it did stop Merab from doing what he wanted to do. Like it was about as pure a case as you'll find of that kind of old school, well, I just got to impose my will. I got to impose my game. Like that's pretty much bunk these days, but this was one of the last fights where it kind of harks back to that dynamic, and Merab just literally imposed his game on O'Malley better than O'Malley did on Merab, because he had moments, but yeah, just
the fifth round, the only one that I thought he really had some good moments. I think the crowd was obviously so O'Malley that when he landed stuff, the crowd would erupt. But sometimes they were, to me, they were overselling some of his shots. Like they make like in the third round. I remember I think it was the third round I gave it to him. He landed a couple. Like there wasn't much going on. Merab got a takedown, but nothing really happened. And then O'Malley landed a couple shots. But I mean, you would have thought he was landing Francis Ngannou on Alistair Overeem type punches the way the crowd was reacting. He landed a greasy jab. It is not too much to talk about because, I mean, there's not a lot of X's and O's to break down. Merab's a good wrestler, and he fought at a good pace. I couldn't believe when Merab was moving around so much and getting O'Malley to kind of, especially in the first round, react. They kept saying, oh, can Merab keep this pace? And I'm like, can Merab keep this pace? It's not Merab that the pace is the issue. It's going to be O'Malley, because not only is O'Malley going to have to fight at this pace, but for him, it was very unlikely O'Malley was going to win a decision.
Right.
It was, the way he was going to win, it was going to look like Aljamain Sterling's fight, where he catches him with a clean shot, puts him out, and finishes him. The deeper the fight went, I go, the more O'Malley's going to get tired, the more his legs going to be tired, his hands going to be tired, his arms and stuff, the lactic acid is going to go up. Less likely that punch is not only, less likely that it lands because his timing will slow down, but even more that when it lands, it'll catch Merab and put him out. I actually liked that he went to the body in the fifth. Like, actually, that made the most sense. I mean, he was kind of desperate, but I like that. But I'm watching that, and I'm like, I couldn't believe the commentator was saying, "Oh my God, is this a good strategy, Merab?" I'm like, yeah, it's a brilliant strategy. It's a guy who's taking the SATs and he's got the answer sheet. Like,
yeah,
what do you think?
It's weird. Have none of these people seen Merab fight?
Yeah, I know.
Can he keep up this pace? Yes, he can keep up this pace. It's what he does.
There's actually a slower pace than he normally fights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't as furious as usual.
No.
And obviously we have a long history of when a very popular champ, a champ that is a star or that the UFC sees becoming a star, is fighting. It's almost laughable how badly the booth will no sell what their opponent is doing or just ignore what their opponent is doing. Like very famously when Holly Holm fought Ronda Rousey and Goldberg was in the middle of doing a live read or saying that like it's tiring being a rock star like Ronda Rousey. Well, she's in the middle of getting her ass kicked. I mean, this is a little bit of that. This was supposed to be a just another coronation for O'Malley, headlining a historic card for the UFC, and instead he kind of got washed.
Yeah. So one thing we don't do, like we do predictions, and one thing we never do is we never like dog each other's predictions, because 1 week you'll be wrong bad, 1 week I'll be wrong bad. It's kind of pointless. None of us are undefeated in our picks. But this is one where I was very confident to pick. Like people were messaging me this week, and that's why I knew it was going to do well, because the casuals were messaging me, and they always ask me about the most popular guy, which was obviously O'Malley. And it is like O'Malley by knockout, and I'm like, no, like I think Merab should be a 3-1 favorite. I was shocked that Merab was an underdog.
Yeah, I mean, it was close to a pick 'em, but as one of the people that picked O'Malley to win, Merab fought a perfect game plan, or I mean, he fought a Merab game plan, and O'Malley didn't fight to his best advantage. And Dev, I mean, our man Devin Tejada said something in the chat. He's like, Merab could fight that fight again right now.
Yeah, no, I want to be clear. Like, this is not what we do. We don't like bash each other's picks.
Yeah.
I said this, like, I thought Merab was the worst stylistic matchup for O'Malley, but somehow on the flip side, O'Malley, other than not counting Umar, is the worst stylistic matchup for Merab, because nobody's going to stop Merab's takedowns. So at least give me the one guy that can snipe him with one shot. Because like when I think of O'Malley, I think of like the old school American Gladiators, where remember the I don't know what it was called, but like they had like this like gun, and they would shoot the tennis balls at the guys running.
Yeah.
Like it's very unlikely in that little time you're going to hit the guy in the tennis ball. As they get closer, it's more likely, but you get my point. Like O'Malley's that one guy that could hit the one from super far away. He's that speed, that fast. He could get the guy moving. With that said, I'm like, I think people blew up the knockout of Sterling, because they're completely different. Like, not all wrestling's the same. They're completely different wrestlers.
Yeah.
But move on. Is there really anything else to really talk about the fight? Like, I'm a little rushed today, but usually when we break it down, like this, we kind of talked about all this on preview. Like, this is exactly what's going to go. It was going to be O'Malley starts with him, we go, damn, O'Malley's a man. Or Merab's the man, and he just runs through him like this.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And even as the guy that picked O'Malley in this one, I said, I'll know within 90 seconds or so if I got this one wrong. And yeah, I knew I was in for a long night.
You did say that, So Umar obviously is the next guy. That's the fight they want to go with. That's probably the toughest stylist matchup for Merab. I will say this: Merab's style, I feel like will crumble overnight. Like, he's going to be dominant, and then suddenly, like, oh wait, he can't fight at that pace anymore, because just suddenly your body can't handle that. Like you know what I mean? It's like it's like NFL running backs. How, like, you could be the best running back in the NFL and suddenly out of the NFL 2 years later, like Adrian Peterson, like MVP, done.
Yeah, and not even because you got injured or anything, just that little top gear slips a little bit and nothing works anymore.
Yeah, that tenth of a second cut that you normally would hit a hole, now you're not hitting it, and that's kind of feel like Merab's style will be. That said, when it falls apart, it's going to fall bad. But if he has more years of doing that, so that's a perfect example. Pope mentioned Todd Gurley. That's a guy like I was like best running back in the league out of the NFL in like 2 years. Like, as long as that style will last, he's going to be very successful. When you say like, okay, give me 3 years, give me 4, whatever it is, and then it's going to fall apart. That said, say God came to me, say he can fight like this for another 3 years. Well, if Umar doesn't beat him, I don't think anyone else even has a shot.
Yeah, and because his way up was so long, he's fought a lot of people in the division already.
Oh yeah.
and he's not big enough to move up to 145. I mean, I think that's a non-starter. It'll be an interesting, like, the Umar Nurmagomedov fight is going to be kind of a weird crossroads for that entire division. Because, yeah, if he beats Umar, especially if he beats him in an uncontroversial manner where Umar has some work to do to even get back to another shot, Merab's going to run out of people to fight.
Yeah, so I think Umar is a better wrestler than Merab. Here, technically, if they had a 6-minute freestyle wrestling match, I think Umar wins.
Yeah, but you just said the important part.
That's what I was setting up. Good. You know exactly what I was saying, right? Good. I'll let you finish it. So we're still on the same.
Unfortunately, when they fight, it's probably going to be a lot longer than 6 minutes.
Right.
And who's the better fighter in minute 21?
Yeah.
It might come down to it, to tell us who wins the fight.
Yeah, that's how I feel about this. Like, is Umar probably a better wrestler? Yeah, I think so. But can he handle the pace of Merab? But does Merab change? Maybe Merab is a little intimidated by the wrestling. He doesn't have this huge wrestling advantage he has over other people, and maybe he fights a little different. Doesn't fight at that pace? Maybe. But it's so funny. I see people chatting and saying, "Oh, that fight couldn't headline a UFC and pay-per-view," and I understand where they come from. Like, right, I understand. Sure. But I couldn't be intrigued enough.
Oh,
from an exit, I couldn't be intrigued enough.
I want that fight for sure.
Yeah, but we're going to be the minority. Like like my friends aren't going to be texting me asking me about Nurmagomedov versus Merab.
No.
And if they do, they're going to just assume Nurmagomedov.
It's Khabib.
Yeah,
or they're going to assume
or it's his last name's Nurmagomedov, so he must be. Yeah. So that's what you want to do. I mean, is that like the no-brainer? There's nobody else. Like if you're the UFC now, not Ben. You're running the UFC. You book anything else?
I think that's the most obvious one. Like Umar, he's undefeated in the UFC. He's looked fantastic. And there's no one that's been waiting longer.
Yeah, I agree. What do we do on O'Malley? Because obviously O'Malley's still a star. I mean, obviously his stock drops a little bit, but he's still young. He's not super young, but he's
29.
Actually, he's only but he's still in his prime. He's still one of the biggest stars. I'm giving Figueiredo.
I don't mind that at all. I was gonna wait until Jose Aldo and Mario Bautista fight in a couple weeks. Give him one of those guys.
I definitely don't hate Aldo. Like Batista. I mean, he'll obviously get a lot of shine if he beats Aldo, but Aldo, like you give me that as a co-main event of the pay-per-view.
Sure,
I don't mind that. Let me give you another. Like you're really desperate to get O'Malley an opponent, and you want him to win by knockout. Like you want him to have a spectacular. Remember him and Cody Garbrandt getting into it?
Oh man, somebody in the comment section on our preview was talking about O'Malley having gone on Demetrius Johnson's podcast last week. And he was, talking to DJ, and he was talking about trash talk. And he said, like, O'Malley said to Demetrius, like, he said, I'd never call you short because you don't give a shit. But I'd call Cody Garbrandt short because he'd lose his mind.
Yeah.
I want them to fight just to see if that's true.
Yeah. That's a good. Like, Cub is like tattoos ugly or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually think there's a lot of options for O'Malley. So give me a couple. Obviously, his next fight will be on pay-per-view, but let's move on. It's not often where a main event looks almost similar to the co-main event. Very similar way the style goes. It's not often where I'm going to predict that we're going to talk about the co-main event a lot longer than we talk about the main event. Which one we would never do, just right away. But two, how it happens. And the star power, everything favors the main event. I have more things to talk about in the co-main event.
Oh, agreed. There's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more to talk about in every sense. Let's hit it.
So I think we all had a pretty well night of predictions. This is one that we hit both of our consensus underdog picks. The one favorite we both, I think it was two that we both picked that we lost, but of the title fights that we both picked Alexa Grasso to beat Valentina Shevchenko, and Valentina Shevchenko did one of those you guys all must have forgot moments. And she turned back the clocks and showed she still has it, and she has recaptured the UFC title, getting revenge against the woman that took her title. Took the really long route as they had to have a rematch that turned into a draw and then do the entire season on the Ultimate Fighter show. But Valentina Shevchenko is king, or queen, I should say, of the flyweight division again. Was this a great showing by Shevchenko, or was this a really poor showing by Grasso?
Obviously, when you have two fighters this high level, it's usually a little bit of both. But I think this is more of a great performance by Shevchenko. Like this is what their first fight looked like for a lot of it. And the only thing that went wrong was one blown spinning attack at the very end. Grasso snatches victory from the jaws of defeat in like 10 seconds. Like, I think on some level, and I'm speaking as someone who got this fight wrong and actually thought Grasso was going to style on Shevchenko, but on some level, Shevchenko and her handlers must have thought, you know what? We have now fought Grasso for 9 rounds, and we think we can take her down pretty much anytime we want. And the further we stray from that, the worse it goes for us. So let's just go out and fucking win this fight.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Grasso lost because it's Valentina Shevchenko.
Sure.
I'm surprised that she got dominated. Like, if you told me that Grasso lost, I thought it'd been like, okay, it's gonna be very similar to the second fight, really close, come down to 1 round, close edge, maybe it's split decision, because she was so good in the first fight. And then even though it was a draw, I shouldn't say she was losing, but then she like had a great moment. But then I thought the second fight she showed that it wasn't like a fluke. Like she fought to a draw. I thought she actually won the fight, but she had a lot of brilliant moments. She hurt Shevchenko. So I felt like all the momentum was on her side. She's shown that she's increasing. Shevchenko might be some signs of decreasing, and it wasn't. I think she did. So to answer my own question about do I think it was a good showing from Shevchenko or a bad showing from Grasso, I'm actually the opposite. I think it's a little bit of a bad showing by Grasso. And one thing I think she did right away, which I thought was really poor, she fought at Shevchenko's pace. Like, on the feet, it was a slow, like, you think of that, like, that crafty veteran who wants to slow down the pace, and, like, kind of like how, like, Jose Aldo was at the end of his now he's still fighting, but, like, when he was still, like a relevant top 10 guy, but he would get people to slow the fight down, fight at his pace. I feel like that's what was happening here. And Shevchenko, obviously, you mentioned it. She had such a like clear game plan, and it was to wrestle, but not she. The second fight, she wrestled a lot, but it was not just wrestling and land damage and go for submission because she rushed some things. It was control on the ground, not to rush. Don't care if you get booed. Don't care, if the crowd is yelling to stand them up because the crowd's against you anyways. It's Mexican Independence Day against a Mexican, so. The crowd wasn't, and I thought it was 100%. I'm fighting to not impress or anything. It was simply to win the title. It was definitely more of a sport moment than an entertainment moment.
Sure.
Like very, like Bill Belichick happy, like we ran the ball up the middle and we threw a little flat pass and like we got the win. We happy. They got the coach who's happy to win 13-10 in a football game instead of 45-42, something like that. I also thought that the threat of takedowns was actually freezing Grasso from throwing bigger combinations. Because when she was hurting Shevchenko before, she was throwing like big combinations and catching her on the end, the third, fourth punch. She wasn't throwing those because she was so worried about the takedowns.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It dried up her kicking game a lot too. I mean, she's always been a boxer who kicks more than like a real kickboxer, but she'd grown more and more reliant on kicks as things kind of progressed for her over the last few years. That was gone tonight.
Yeah, let me ask you this question, and I kind of have an idea what you're really going to say, but there's usually discussion like there's two things that kind of is marketable for the UFC. One is like a backstory, Mexico being obviously such a hotbed for them right now that they're really trying to tag into, or a dominant champion, someone who could go on a run, get eyeballs, headline a lot of shows, people start to know them. So is it better for the UFC? Not how it went. We all know that this is not how the UFC wanted the fight to go. But is it good for the UFC that like an all-time great is a champion again like Valentina Shevchenko? Or was it bad for the UFC that they don't have their Mexican champion?
I don't think there was. I don't think either was going to be a disastrous outcome, but I think if you'd ask them honestly, they would have said they prefer Grasso to win. But like it's not a disaster that Shevchenko won.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's why I was gonna basically say the same thing. Like I think if you had to, you'd rather have the younger champion from Mexico. But yeah, I like if Grasso lost to fill in a blank, a lesser fighter that's not young, not really, then that would be a disaster. But to an all time great, yeah. How it happened, I don't think they like that. Like I think they would have much preferred old Shevchenko, who first burst on the scene and was known for her striking and kicks and punches and spinning. She did a lot of spinning stuff, like very like Alexander Slemenko style, where she like spinning back kick to the stomach. And then it was that fight against Juliana Pena where someone she was wrestling and like she was really good at. And she's like, we talk about people doing this. Like I always bring up Alice Overeem and other ones like Glover Share. People who come into the UFC.
Dude, George St. Pierre.
George St. Pierre is now, yeah. People known for their striking, who really, as a career goes on, become a very good grappler. Might even be better at grappling. Shevchenko's that now. Like she's probably better wrestling than she's a striker at this point.
I'm completely with you on that.
No brainer question. I think it's no brainer. Shevchenko, the second greatest female fighter ever. Is there even an argument for anybody else?
I mean, you can make an argument for someone like Cyborg, but
yeah,
I mean, she's definitely the second greatest female fighter of all time in my book.
Yeah, it's close. It was close. I was trying to set you up to be like, oh yeah, of course she is. And then I was going to bring up Cyborg. I'd have to really break it down. I think she probably has passed Cyborg, but it's close. Let me ask you something I tweeted. I don't know if you saw this, but pretty controversial take. I tweeted out that now, based on winning the title again and all of her accomplishments, Valentina Shevchenko is a top 10 fighter all time, regardless of gender. Agree or disagree? Is that a absurd statement?
It's not absurd. Like if I sat down with a piece of paper and actually wrote out a list, she might not make the top 10, but I'm not laughing at you for bringing it up.
All right.
Like whether she comes in at 15 or 8, it's reasonable.
Okay. How about this? I did write down a list. I'm not going to name it all, but I'm going to say why. I'm going to get even more absurd. I think she's a lock in the top 10, and I think she's closer to 5 than she is 10.
Wow.
She's got 7 title defenses. She's won the title twice. She's had success in 2 different weight classes. And then when you look at the people she's beating. She avenged her loss of. Think about it. Her losses are to Amanda Nunes, Alexa Grasso, who she already avenged. Amanda Nunes was like 2 right there. She's beaten Jessica Andrade. She beat Caitlin Chikagian, Liz Carmouche, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Juliana Pena, Holly Holm. I mean, the list goes on and on of people she's beaten.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people thought she'd beat Amanda Nunes in
the second fight, yeah.
Ready? I'm going to get really cut because people saying I'm crazy. Ready?
Yep.
John Jones. I'm going to give you a list. Tell me what this list is. John Jones, George St. Pierre. What do these people have in common? John Jones, George St. Pierre, Amanda Nunes, Demetrius Johnson, Anderson Silva. What do those 5 people have in common?
A ton of UFC title defenses.
Yeah, that too. But you know what they are? You know what that list is? Anybody know what that list is?
What is it?
Those are the 5 people better than Valentina Shevchenko. Not another person's over her. Not a single person left is over her. She's past Fedor. She's past Jose Aldo. I got a number 6 over all time. But mind you, that was a me living in the moment, doing it at 1:30 in the morning. So I'm not great. I mean, I wasn't thinking much into Aldo and Fedor and DC and all that, but she's better than like get out of here with Habib. Habib is the most dominant fighter I've ever seen for a very short period of time.
Yep.
He forfeited his all-time ranking.
Yes.
Because he wants to be a good son and everything. But like, I'm sorry, like give me Habib's 3 best. Like he had a good year and a half. Like
yeah. Like Habib didn't even graduate to fighting top 10 fighters until his last 7 or 8 fights. Like,
yeah,
Valentina has that many title defenses.
Exactly.
Where she was fighting the number 2 or number 3 fighter every single time in
career.
5-round fights. Yeah.
For like half her career. Yeah. Habib to me was like nobody dominated, had more impressive, but to me it's like that guy who has that all-time season. And yeah, but Barry. So all right, so someone just said, "Oh, did Barry Sanders forfeit?" Yeah. You know what? Barry Sanders would forfeit if Barry Sanders played in the NFL for 2 seasons. It was dominant 2 seasons. We wouldn't be talking about Barry Sanders as an all-time great. We'd be like,
he played for 10
really great seasons. He dominated for 10 fucking years. Yes.
Yeah, like
Jim Brown. Jim Brown retired after 9 years, but he dominated for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
If an NFL player came into like Justin Jefferson, he's a fantastic football player. Like I don't know, he's been like what 3-4 years. If he retired right now, he wouldn't be in the all-time discussion for greatest wide receivers. He wouldn't even be brought up. That's how I feel about Habib. So there you go. Anyways, I knew that. Everyone, that'll be the comments that we get this week. You guys are all wrong. I'm right. What are we doing next with him?
With Shevchenko?
Yeah. Who gets
I mean, Manon Fior was already there on weight cage side. I think she's pretty obviously next.
Yeah, she already weighed in and everything. I agree. How about Grasso?
I don't think she falls too far here. She is a growing star. She is still a very, very good fighter. I mean, these 2 women are still 1-1-1. It isn't Grasso's fault that it should have looked like tonight every single time they fought. Give me the winner of Blanchfield versus Namajunas in like a month and a half.
Yeah, I went with Natalia Silva, but I'm okay with that. Just because I feel like, after beating Jessica Andrade, she continues to get a bigger fight. Obviously, Adam Duffy is right. I'm always right.
Adam is making his case to be the new Duffy on the Shillan and Duffy show.
Yeah, now 30C West goes, oh, he was in the UFC for 8 years. Is that equal to 2 years in the NFL? Well, Justin Jefferson was the best wide receiver in the NFL for 2 years. How long was Habib the best fighter in the UFC for 2 years? He wasn't. Yeah. That's the point.
Yeah.
If Barry Sanders played in the NFL for 8 seasons but was dominant for 2, we wouldn't be calling him the greatest running back ever.
Right. Yeah.
I'll give you another controversial one. Jim Brown's the greatest running back ever. If you look into Jim Brown, there's no argument. Anyways. That was pretty good. I don't want to get controversial. That was actually pretty good. Nice job. Before that, Brian Ortega took on Diego Lopez, finally getting the match that everybody wanted. Diego Lopez winning by unanimous decision. Ben, how high are you on this guy, Diego Lopez?
I'm the exception. Like, I'm the guy that as soon as he fought Movsar Evloev in his UFC debut and put it on him, like came close to springing the upset, I've had to kind of tap the brakes on him. Okay, this is only his 3rd UFC fight. This is only his 5th UFC fight. I think he's a future title challenger. Hell, he may be a title challenger next, depending on how things crumble. He looks absolutely fantastic. And yeah, Brian Ortega did not look his absolute best tonight, but Lopez just made his life so miserable. The difference in speed and power was so obvious so quickly. I thought this thing might have been over in the first minute to minute and a half. I thought Lopez was about to do something that we had never seen done to Brian Ortega.
Could you imagine if he did? Like when he hurt him early, if he stopped him there, how crazy would be going for this guy right now?
Yeah, Brian Ortega does join one important Hall of Fame. It is my Hall of Fame. He gets to join the likes of Michelle Waterson Gomez and Alan Jouban for extremely good-looking fighters who fight as if they don't give a fuck about their face, which I find extremely admirable. That is fantastic, you know? Yeah, like he'll always have that. But at this,
Paige Van Zandt actually would fall.
Yeah. Just Paige Van Zandt wasn't even good enough at fighting to stick around, you know, with that going for her. But here, this was Ortega just gutting it out with just pure toughness when he was badly overmatched.
Yeah, being Brian Ortega tough. You said that you had to pump the brakes. I feel about Lopez like I think I mentioned this before. When I was in Vermont, me and my family went mountain biking for the first time ever, and accidentally went down like the hardest one there was, and we're zooming, we're going. I'm like, holy shit, this is so intense. It was. We didn't read the labels, right? We thought it was like the easy one, and next minute we were like out of control, like going crazy fast, like holy shit. That's how I feel about it. Like people might be popping the brakes. To me, it's going too fast. You can't. To me, he was so good tonight, and his hands were fast. He hits hard, and even more impressive, he made a statement by hurting Brian Ortega and having no issue going to the ground, never being in trouble, went to the ground. Now, it wasn't a long period of time. It still went to the ground with Ortega, which is always like the don't do, you know? Like I always think about like, remember Alex Volkanovski when he went against Ortega and he almost got submitted, and like every single time it was even close to getting the fight around, you had that like gasp moment because that's what Brian Ortega does. Diego was the first guy to go down and is like, yeah, let's do it. Like I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no fear at all.
So you talk about pumping the brakes a little bit, but I mean the guys. I mean he might be fighting for the title next. I mean, do you think he could be a champion?
I don't know. Who was it? It's recent enough that I can. Oh yeah, Lyndon, our resident angry opinion guy, thinks Ilya, Max, and Movsar all beat Lopez. I'm not sure about that, but I think he's earned the right to try. I'm not putting him. He has beat him, but you know what? My matchup for him might have him rematching Evloev, and I think he beats him if they fight again on full camps.
Wow, let's do that. Let's put. We'll talk about Ortega in a second, but let's do that. Let's do the matchmaking. So yours is that the match you're doing?
I'm doing the winner of Sterling versus Evloev. They're fighting in a couple weeks.
That's a hot fight.
Because for one thing, if Aljamain Sterling beats Movsar Evloev, and by the way, is that not going to be the funkiest fight ever?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Like, I do not envy Jay Petrie for having to type up a play-by-play for that, because there are going to be a lot of Grammy rolls. But
I don't ever envy Jay for doing those.
Yeah, if Sterling beats Evloev, people are going to start beating the drum like, hey, could this guy be better at 145 than he was at 135?
Yeah, of course.
If Evloev wins, it's no more than everybody expects. I think he'll probably be the favorite. Give me Lopez versus the winner of that, even if it means he and Evloev fight again, because I think it's an easy sell.
Yeah, if Sterling wins, he's getting the title shot. I mean, he's a former champion. He's a big name. Obviously, the marketability of a guy who's already been a former champion, people you've already used marketing, you don't have to tell a story again, kind of jumps a line, especially if Holloway wins, you have like two former champions. But I am not going to do the Evloev Sterling fight.
Oh, what?
I'm giving him the winner of this little matchup going on between Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway.
All right.
I'll give him the title shot next. And I'm going to tell you why I'm giving. There's so many guys who could do that. I mean, Sterling wins. Obviously, Evloev would have a really strong argument if he beat Sterling, as actually beat a little different, short notice fight, everything. I'm going to do it for one reason. Well, I'll give it 2 reasons. When you're trying to get in that Mexican market, I know he's Brazilian by way of Mexico, or how do you say it? Like he's born in Brazil, but he trains in Mexico. Not a good night for Mexicans, so they're trying to go. But even more, the Dan Ige moment. What he did, willing to fight a guy on 3 hours notice after you made weight, go up 20 pounds and all this. Nope, go ahead. Whatever you want. I'm giving the title shot.
I'm not mad at that. And I haven't done any tape study. I'm not sure whether I would favor Lopez against either of those guys, But again, he's getting to the point where he's earned the right to try. Like, what else do you really want from the guy?
And sometimes a new kid in the block is more fun. And I agree. Like, I don't know if I favor him, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Even as a starts either one of those guys, or really, I shouldn't say submit because submitting Max Holloway would be pretty crazy. But you get my point. Like,
Yeah.
he's shown an ability. No one runs through Brian Ortega like he just runs through him. Like, for Brian Ortega not to even have a moment, like, even when Ortega loses, he at least has a moment. Like, I was thinking about the Volkanovski fight where Volkanovski's, when he's the pound for pound best guy in the world and still has to, like, find a way to get out of the crazy deep guillotine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't have a moment.
No.
Now, Lyndon Gill brought it up, like, Brian Ortega might be washed. And that's true. And he's had so many changes. And I think, he's had lack of motivations at time. And who knows? And he was talked about going up to 155. I think it's time for him to go to 155. He's been at 145 for a long time. Kind of. There's always that, like, change of scenery, the change of division that always, like, almost like freshens someone up. That's what I would do to Ortega.
I agree, and I don't think he has another title run in him in either division. But at 155, he'll be healthier. Hell, he may be able to fight more often. Again, for his entire UFC run, he has been saying he doesn't want to fight more than twice a year because the cut to 145 takes him so long that it cuts into the other things he wants to do with his life. I find that admirable. I want fighters to have lives, but at 155, maybe he can fight 3 times a year. Maybe he can fight a little longer. Like, just because he had a bad showing tonight doesn't change the fact that I normally consider the guy appointment viewing. Like, he's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. He's a special fighter.
Yeah. And all the new matchups, which is ironic because the matchup I'm giving him could actually be a rematch, but I'm giving Ortega the winner of Renato Moicano versus Benoit Saint-Denis.
Whew, you're throwing him right into the deep end of the pool. I mean,
for the title, you kind of have no choice.
Yeah, it's well, if he's going up to 155, I like that for him. Otherwise, I was just going to give him the loser of Sterling and Evloev.
At 145. Okay. Yeah.
Like,
either way, yeah. I mean, his stock has obviously fallen, and before that, Daniel Zellhuber took on Esteban Ribovic, with Esteban Ribovic winning a split decision. Ben, how did you score the fight?
I scored the fight for Ribovic 30-26, and I know I'm the only one.
Wow. Okay.
But here's the thing. The first 2 rounds could have gone to either guy. Like, I have no problem at all with somebody who gave the first 2 rounds to Zellhuber. I happen to give him to Ribovic. And if I watched it again, I'm sorry. I scored at 30-27, Ribovic, but I was leaning on the 10-8 in the 3rd round.
Oh, the 10-8.
Like, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, 30-27. But if somebody scored it for Zellhuber, I'm not mad. If somebody scored it a draw, gave Zellhuber the first 2 rounds, and then gave Ribovic a 10-8 third round, I'm not mad at that either. Is that what you did?
You're not mad at me because I scored it a draw, my man.
There you go.
You set that up perfectly. I had the first 2 for Zellhuber. Again, really close. Could have went either way. And then it's not often you get 10-8 after you drop somebody with an elbow. But the onslaught that came, like, the referee could have jumped in for about a minute straight. He could have jumped in at any time and they'd been like totally justified.
Yeah.
So it's one of these fights where we have a war where I thought both guys looked good. Like, I feel good about both guys moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think anybody took a big step back in this fight. It's just one of those fights. And it's a fight of the year candidate. Round 3 is definitely a round of the year candidate.
Yes.
Even though, like, it's arguably not even the best single round of the night tonight. There was another round of the year candidate too. Like, it's only right at the very end that this card started to suck.
Oh yeah, up to this point, the card was really good. What I love that both guys got hurt in this fight and neither guy gave up. Like, they both found ways to dig deep and make it close. Like, even in a fight where Zellhuber, I thought, got 10-8 at the end, like, kind of came on the last 30 seconds of the fight. I think Zellhuber made a mistake. I think the corner was right that he didn't, like, use his distance enough They kept saying that, like, use your distance, let him come in too hard. But props to Esteban, because he had to like get in that side. Like, he had to go through that, like, that shooting gallery to get inside to land those power shots to give himself a chance to win. So spectacular fight. I look forward to seeing both these guys again.
Yes.
The somehow grudge match that stole the show at the press conference, Ode Osborne took on Hanado Lazy Boy Rodriguez, also called Luis Rodriguez. Unanimous decision. This was a really close fight. I scored at 29-28 Rodriguez. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I scored it a draw, 28-28.
Okay.
Because I gave Osborne a 10-8 first round, but I don't think you're necessarily wrong.
Yeah. Which is ironic, because I don't hate a 10-8 round for Osborne. The judges actually went 10-8 for Rodriguez.
In the second round, which to me was not as dominant a round. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Like
so I shout out to my boy Nick Cattles. He's a New England media member. He does the stick and ball sports. He has a really good YouTube page. He does the local radio. I've known the guy since we went to elementary school together. Like, he's always been this huge one. So he follows MMA, not a super deep one, but he watches pay-per-views. And he asked me what I thought about this card, and I said exactly what you said. Like, I didn't hate the 10-8 round for Rodriguez, but if you go 10-8 round there, then you definitely have to go 10-8 round for Osborne. So that's why I didn't like the scorecard in that sense. My concern with Osborne, and I really believe he's the more skilled fighter of these two, but it's kind of how I feel, and I've really almost like confirmed what we talked about earlier this week. I feel like Osborne's a front runner. I had him, I had it one round each. I had him winning the third round with 30 seconds left. There was a 50-50 position where he shot in. He was sprawled, but he wasn't like completely sprawled out. And it was like 30 seconds. I'm like, dude, circle away, circle up, get back to you, do something. And he just let Rodriguez like just push his hips into him until he flipped over. And I was just like, dude, come on, man. You got to find a way to dig deep.
Yeah, it was, and several people have already pointed it out. His ground game was so weird tonight. Like, it was round 2 that he spent most of in a body triangle, right? Even though it looked like he could have just spun into his guard at just about any point in the round. And he knows that.
It was,
like,
at one
it's
point,
the kind of thing that Ode Osborne does in fights.
Yeah,
and he just
at one point,
this time.
At one point, Rodriguez had his back and was falling off. It was like hanging from the side.
Yeah,
it didn't shake nothing. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to pick for a guy who has so many skills that just jump off the page. I don't think I'm taking out Ode Osborne in many fights. Just something about him.
Even and you said it right off the top. You said he's the more skilled fighter. He's the more skilled fighter a lot of the time, and yet he's 4-6 in the UFC.
There you go.
And most of the time when he loses, it's not competitive like this. Usually he gets his brakes blown out.
Yeah. Yep. Before that, one of the closest fights on the betting line, which both me and you picked the upset, one of our back-to-back consensus upset picks, is Irene Aldana took on Noma Dumont, with Noma Dumont winning a unanimous decision. First of all, and it was a clash of heads, but is it the nastiest cut in the history of the UFC?
It is the nastiest cut in the history of the UFC that was allowed to ride it out for another round. And not to jump on dude seriously too quickly, but the doctor didn't even look at it.
Herbdine didn't stop it at one point to check, again.
It was a 3-inch cut. It was vertical, and vertical cuts always, until tonight, always get a shorter leash. And it was so deep you could see her third grade teacher in it.
It was. So my wife came downstairs and was watching the fight when just this one fight with me. It was actually my son was watching with me and he fell asleep on the couch and she was coming downstairs to get him, and when she started watching it, and the the cut man starts wiping the blood from her like cheekbone underneath and like trying to push the swelling away. And as he's doing that, her cut is like sliding over and just keeps getting bigger. And I'm like, oh my god, dude, you not see that? Like, oh, it looked like someone like when someone cuts pizza and they don't cut all the way through, that's like still connected, and you start like sliding the pizza apart. Like, you know what I mean? Like somebody doesn't cut it all the way through. That's what I felt like it was. As far as the fight, one of the best showings by Dumont. She looked fantastic.
She really did look fantastic. She is one of the most improved fighters in the UFC over the last 5 years. Like, she was brought in as a featherweight sacrificial lamb for, I forget whether it was for Megan Anderson or
Megan
for
Anderson. Megan
yeah.
Anderson.
And just like, I was like, all right, she'll stick around for a while because 145 has nobody, but she's not good. And all of a sudden, she's good. Like, physically, like, she's gone from the woman that missed 145 badly to being a lean 135, like lean in recognition of her body type.
Not too lean, yeah.
But yeah, not too lean. Like,
she looks, she definitely see like more definition in her arms. She looks good at 135. Like, and I agree. Like, this actually one of the exact notes I wrote was that she's adding skills. I mean, she now has like this good jab. She's got this teep kick suddenly. She's throwing like big combinations. I love, like, anytime she got hurt, she had that like Robert Whitaker, like, I'm gonna get it back in me. Like, I'm gonna take back the momentum every single time you landed. Like, she's got a little bit of dog in her.
Mm-hmm.
Aldana wants to be a boxer. The problem is she just like she's a you know, she's a kickboxer who is using just boxing. You know, like kickboxers have a good kicking game and their kicks open up punches, but their actual overall boxing isn't that good. That's how I feel about it. Like, she Good.
No, you're absolutely on the right track. Like, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, she was kept walking into the scene like left. I'm like, did you see that? And like, got your head off the center line when you're coming in for attack. She just kept walking forward. They've been saying this for 3-4 fights in a row. She doesn't cut off the cage. She has no kicks. I think she threw like one kick the entire fight, and she keeps throwing the same thing. What she wants to do is she wants to get in close so she can throw a left hook.
And she used to have above average hand speed for the division. She looked slow against Dumont as well. Like, Dumont had a much wider variety of tools available to her because, as you point out, Aldana chose to take on this fight purely as a boxer. But even in the boxing, I just felt like Dumont's hands were crisper. Like, the one thing Aldana decided to hang her whole performance on wasn't going to win it for her tonight. Dumont looked great.
Yeah,
it's the perfect time.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, Aldana tries winning by just being tougher than her opponent. Like, I can take a lot of damage. Can you take a lot of damage for 15 minutes?
She wins. Congratulations, Randy Aldana. You can take more damage.
I think it was something like they said. I forget who said it. Something like that. Over her last 3 fights, it's like a record for the amount of punches that's been landed on her. Over 15-minute fights, not counting. I'm assuming not counting championship fights, but
the kind of records people don't want to set.
So that was our first, really our second consensus vote. The first one we're talking about. The second one was Ignacio Bahamondes taking on Manuel Torres. We both picked Bahamondes. Bahamondes with a spectacular finish, winning by first round TKO. I mean, this dude's a sharpshooter. I mean, his striking is. I mean, his feedback right hand, he did it twice, like almost back to back. Torres came in, tried to land a big shot. He just slid back out of the range of the big shot, counters with the right, drops him. I don't know, 30 seconds later, he gets back to feet, does the same thing one more time. This time, he finishes him. I loved it.
And he had to overcome a little bit of adversity there. I wasn't feeling great about the pick for the first couple of minutes because Torres was getting inside on the taller, rangier guy, He's landing. I mean, everything Torres throws is a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and he was landing some of them. But yeah, Bahamondes, tough, resourceful, made good adjustments. I mean, when you're Bahamondes and you're a 6'2" lightweight or whatever you are, you're gonna live and die by your ability to punish shorter fighters coming in. Like you're gonna live and die by either developing or failing to develop in close weapons. That and takedown defense, but even just to win a striking battle with someone like Torres that wasn't going to go to the ground unless he had to, it was, can you punish Torres for coming inside? For 2 minutes he couldn't, and then for 2 minutes he could.
Yeah. You know what I felt like when you talk about like this, that he was hitting the pressure of Torres and he was really struggling. Once he got the timing, then he was just teeing off on. I feel like it's like the guy who goes in the batting cage, like the batting cage you have at the, I don't know, like family fun place with like go-karts and stuff, mini golf. And he goes in the cage and it's, I don't know, it's on like 75 or something. He can't hit it. And he swings and he misses. He swings and misses and it's too fast for him. But then he starts swinging a little sooner, and then finally he gets the timing. And then once you get that timing, it's like, okay, now you're hitting the ball every single time after that. But, maybe you have 12 balls at you. For the first 4, you just completely miss. Then you like foul tip the 5th one. And then the 6th one, 7th one, 8th one, now you just hit it. That's how I felt like with this. It was just like, okay, now he's going to speed. He's got the timing. One thing he's going to do, it's going to be spectacular. He kept landing the feedback right hand, but he tried early. He tried feedback. It was actually really, really, I loved it. He fades back, and then he throws a high kick. Instead of throwing and I'm like, that's going to be spectacular if he lands that, a fade back and then come back with a high kick. This dude, I mean, he's big. He's got the skill set, obviously his size and his speed and his power. Yeah, it's definitely an issue for a lot of guys. Like he's a scary guy in the division.
He is a scary guy in the division, and I think he's probably at the perfect place in at Valley Flow Striking because Mike Valley has become kind of a specialist at sharpening fighters out games. Like you think about Bahamondes, you think about Yair Rodriguez, who's probably the first major fighter to go there. Now for a while, and Bilal Muhammad, who despite being a short, stocky welterweight on the feet, he tends to try to fight an out fight until he's ready to wrestle. And Mike Valley has really sharpened all of their games. So yeah, good stuff from Bahamondes.
Speaking of sharp games, one of the worst calls, Yasmin Haragi took on Ketlin Souza. Yasmin Haragi was a big favorite, and she got lamped with a classic club and sub by Ketlin Souza. Souza's fun. I mean, any fighter in that division is going to get in the pocket and throw bombs, very like Jessica Andrade style. And she has the power. I mean, she caught it, jumped on the back quick. It was a thing of beauty.
It was a thing of beauty. And I looked like an idiot because in the Sherdog Slack as we're watching that fight, I called her Ketlin So-So, and like 10 seconds later she floored Haragi, and then 10 seconds after that she choked her to sleep. So yeah,
power is the ultimate equalizer. And then Haragi, she's got a lot of skills, but you got to worry about her durability. Yeah, I know it's been out of 3 fights she's been blasted bad. Out of 2 out of 3 fights, definitely concerning.
And considering that she wants to strike, her chin's going to be on the gunnery range every time out. So I agree with you.
Yeah. Before that, Joshua Van took on Eddie Charez, winning by unanimous decision. Van, I mean, it's rinse and repeat. I'm going to lose the first round. I'm going to come back in the second, third, and look brilliant. Let's see it happen again.
It happened again. And here's the thing. There are different kinds of slow starters, and there's the slow starters like John Jones, who will kind of, or Peter Yan, either of those guys would kind of let the first round go just as they figure out the range, figure out the distance, see what their opponent wants to do. Yeah. And then there are slow starters like Donald Cerrone, where if somebody jumped right on him, Cerrone for the first 3 minutes of a fight, it's like he's never fought before, and a fast starter could just get him out of there. Van will be fine. I mean, it'd be better if he was a better first round fighter, but he'll be fine if he starts most of his fights out down around. He's good enough that he's going to come back and beat a lot of people, as long as he doesn't take a ton of damage in that round. What really bothers me is that he didn't bother to check leg kicks. And because of that, not only was he down around, he was already switching stances and limping around after 5 minutes. That's going to mark a hard ceiling for him if he doesn't fix it.
Yeah, and he got hurt. Even in a fight that he was dominating, Chavez hurt him in the third. So he got knocked out by Charles Johnson in the third. That's a little concerning to me. I think I'm a little more concerned than you are that he'll lose a fight that he like where he does it, like he starts too late, kind of like a tortoise in the hare kind of thing, where you give him too much of a head start. He's going to lose to someone that he's just way better than. But yeah, his body work is so sensational. I mean, it's as good as anybody in the UFC. So that's I like from go a little even earlier. But speaking of early, they put I don't know if this rumor is true, but they had to put Raul Rosas Jr. up first against Rick Shillan because of his bedtime. Raul Rosas, dude, you know what I need to before we talk about this fight? You got to give the people what they want. Like he said on 3, Ben. 1, 2, 3. Shoo-wee-wee.
Chee-wee-wee. It's going to be tough to hear that for the next 12 or 14 years in the UFC as this guy just.
Oh my god!
I mean, I have no idea if he's a future champ, but if Raul Rosas doesn't suck, he could certainly be chasing the Jim Miller record for like just most appearances in the cage. This could be a guy that 15 years from now is still just 34 years old. Think about that. In 15 years, he'll be basically Merab's age. He could have 50 UFC fights. 3 fights a year is not out of the question, and that would be 50 fights. Like,
dude, yeah. So first of all, shout out to Ice Viking, 100% accurate. That I keep looking at the clock and trying to figure out how much nose. I'm going like 2 hours sleep tomorrow, so bear with me. But I'll try to. I don't know. I'll fucking die. This is when I'm dead. It's gonna say on my gravestone, "Sherdog killed him." Sherdog post my shows killed him. My last words to like my family, instead of me saying like, "Oh, like I love you," so my last words be like, "Earlier pay-per-view start times."
And your last word's gonna be like, "It's like he doesn't move his head enough, back straight up on the center line."
Yeah, I'll say this about. So first of all, the shit wee thing, I actually love it. Like it gets stuck in my head. I think I said it like 47 times before the like Josh Van fight started. I even said it to my son. He started saying wee wee. My 9-year-old son. He's like, "What does that mean?" Like, I have no idea what it means. It wasn't. His performance was not a negative 1,000 performance. But I actually think it was a good performance in the sense that he was like, I don't think he should have been that big of a favorite. But what I like about him is that he's 19 and he's clearly adding skills. Like if I had his wrestling at a D before, I have it as like a C now. I had his like striking as an F. I have it as like a C now. Like he's throwing body kicks. He's looking at his body. You can tell he's adding muscle. Like he's looking a little more ripped and speed and like losing like a little bit of baby fat. So there's a lot of things. I mean, the dude's 19. He's already got 4 wins in the UFC. Like, think about like combat sports athletes. How many guys at 19 are taking that like red shirt year? Like guy going to wrestling, taking a red shirt year and stuff. This guy got 4 wins in the UFC at 19.
Yeah, not much I can say other than that, and I'm almost glad that he has the 1 loss. Like it's allowing the UFC to slow roll him because, dude, if he'd beaten Christian Rodriguez, his next fight probably would have been a top 15 fight. Like Rodriguez is probably sitting around the number 20. You couldn't not push him too soon. So I like it. They can keep giving him the outreachy lengths of the world as his game develops. Hell, as he even figures out what weight class he's going to be in. He does not look to me like a guy that's still going to be fighting at 135 when he's 25 years old.
Yeah,
he's just too big.
Yeah, and he's been called like after his pro fight, he called for a top 15 fighter. And it's like, dude, slow down, man. Like I understand, like that's where you'd be if you were like 25 and you're 4-1, but dude, just keep slow rolling. Just build those skills, man, and look for the title. Like when you're like 24, 25, like look at seriously, take that long of a road, and yeah, I mean, could he be a champion one day? Like that's such a hard end, but dude's 19. Like he's not even close to the fighter that he'll be 7 years from now.
Completely agreed. And even if he doesn't pan out, it looks like he might. Like he's already a pretty damn good fighter. Like Yeah. Like, not much else to say. He's impressive. He's a little immature, but what 19-year-old isn't?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, guys, that was all 10 fights. That's the one benefit. Let's get to the awards, Ben.
Awards. We should by now. Yep, we got them. We have a fight of the night and 2 performances of the night. If you are in the chat right now, you probably already know who won the awards because you're either following Twitter or you've got the post-fight press conference on one of your screens. So instead of guessing who they are, let us know whom you would have given the awards to, and we'll kind of see how it looks.
All right. Do you agree with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with them.
All right.
I mean, I wouldn't have mind giving away 1 or 2 more, but none of the people who won them were undeserving.
All right. I'm gonna give you. I think the fight night's gonna be pretty easy. Just the reaction, main card. I think Zellhuber versus Esmer Rivas was fight. There was a lot of good fights, especially on the prelims. But I'll go with Zellhuber versus Rivas. That's what I would have done for the fight of the night.
That is what I would have done for fight of the night as well, and that is what won fight of the night. Fight of the night: Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovics.
Performance bonus, to me, 2 people really stand out because I mean Souza was a big favorite, gets a knock, club and sub, should have been knocked, basically club and sub. So rare at women's MMA. I'm going to give Ketlin Souza an award.
She was one of the performance of the night winners.
Did you agree? Would you have given it to her?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And my other one I think is even easier. I would go Bahamas.
And that was the final performance of the night. Those,
nice.
I mean, yeah.
And that's who you had too?
Yes. Now, I would have been fine if they wanted to shell out, like a few extra bucks for somebody like maybe Norma Dumont and Randy Aldana. Who knows?
Yeah, I like Norma Dumont. Yeah, that was a really good fight, especially what happened to Aldana. I hope they toss him, especially because it wasn't even a punch; it was a clash of heads. I mean, the follow up punches and Norma Dumont hit her probably about 100 more times after that. Probably opened up more, but yeah, the initial. I feel like Diego Lopez would have been locked for award if he stopped Ortega. Yeah. Like he was close, so.
I mean, the top 3 fights were about as dominant as you get without a finish. Like they were all pretty one-sided.
Yeah, Ben. Let's do the Cutlass. I think the Cutlass can be really, really quick, Ben. I have nobody.
Really? You're not even cutting O'Day Osborne loose?
Did he win his last fight?
No, he's lost 3 in a row.
All right, you know what? You convinced me. Sorry, O'Day. I think my brain was a shot. You know what? You convinced me. See you, O'Day Osborne. So, did you have anybody else?
No, that was it.
All right, let's see. Let's do seriously. Do you have any? I have a bunch of do seriously. Do you have any?
I have a couple.
All right, I'll let you kick it off first.
Okay. Herb Dean. All of a sudden, I don't know who put what in his Cheerios, who replaced his coffee with meth, but he decided to, in one night, try to make up for 7 or 8 years of letting shit slide. Yeah. And he was too twitchy. He was yelling at Merab within the first 10 seconds of the fight because Merab was jawing at O'Malley's corner.
Yeah.
One, I don't think that should be against the rules. Like concentrate on stopping them from poking each other in the eye and grabbing each other's gloves, Herb.
Yeah.
And like yelling at like Merab to work when they were on the ground. Like, dude, Merab is working.
Yeah, Merab not work, yeah.
Yeah, Merab was working. Like, if you were just saying that as a prelude to being able to stand them back up because you thought that's what the crowd wanted or the UFC wanted, I have no idea. But telling Merab Dvalishvili to work at any time is pretty presumptuous. He was working, and he was inside control like 5 seconds later.
Yeah, I love how the commentary team went from saying Herb Dean's the best referee at that game, for sure the best referee, to suddenly like, dude, why does he keep telling him to work? For the first round of the fifth round was pretty ironic. Yeah, anything else?
Marcus Mustard.
Yeah,
I mean,
missing Josh Van by 100 pounds.
yeah,
Hey,
go on, man.
I'll give a pass for that. Easy,
Yeah.
easy slip.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that occurred to me off the top of my head.
All right, I got a shitload.
Hit me.
I'll start with the very first fight of the night. Raul Rojas calling for 50K when he won a 29-28 decision. Like, dude, seriously. Let's see. How about I got one. Speaking of Herb Dean not checking Aldana's cut. At one point, she reaches down and starts wiping her cut in the middle of the round with her shirt. Did you see that?
Oh, yes, I did.
I'm like, dude, seriously, you can at least like say, all right, maybe we should check the cut. How about Ode Osborne gassing out, but at the press conference telling Ronaldo Rodriguez, "I want to make you look lazy." Like, you can't gas out and then say, "I'm going to make you look lazy." I know that's his nickname,
but yeah, that was like Ode should probably just watch the pre-fight shit talk in general, because statistically, it's going to blow up in his face more than half the time.
You still might Herb Dean once. I went to that one. Esteban Ribovic said that he wants to be as big as Messi. I'm not a
Dude, Messi's like 5'6".
Yeah, as far as the star, I think. I'm not a soccer guy, but I know Conor McGregor is not even big as Messi. Like, dude, you might want to take a pass on that one, my man. Like, dude, seriously. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on the Tim Welsh thing. If he's jarring at Merab, cool, like fine. Like, if he's coaching Merab, pretending to be like his other cornerman, like supposedly that's what they were saying he did. Like, he did it to Aljamain Sterling, supposedly, like saying like
yeah,
like pretending to be the other cornerman. Like, oh, you got to go now, Merab. So like that's a piece of shit. Like, you're like the cheat. Like, if that's what happened, I don't know.
But he was getting after Merab for talking.
I guess Merab started responding back to him, knowing that that's what he was doing. But if Tim Welsh actually is doing that, and again, I'm saying if
if he is, I mean that's super sleazy.
Yeah, it's sleazy. I don't know, like I don't know him or anything like that, but if he is, so that's what I'm saying. If that's pretty shitty. And my last one. I think it was the gimmicks. To me, there was just too many fucking gimmicks tonight with the whole like you're at the Sphere, but then you have the Mexican Independence, and like I felt like I was at like a kid's party, and there was like karaoke going on over there, and there was a freaking clown making balloon animals over there, and then there was a freaking, I don't know, someone's playing musical chairs over there. But then everyone's like, why aren't you listening to the comedian over there? It's like, you have too many fucking things going on. Like, I don't think you needed, like, so to me, it's like UFC Noche in Las Vegas, just fucking weird to me. Like, you're celebrating Mexican independence, like, go to Mexico. It'd be like me going to Canada and celebrating the 4th of July. Like, what are we doing? Or we're celebrating Bo Nichols' birthday, but we're doing it at the University of Iowa. Like, what are we fucking doing? Like, dude, seriously?
I didn't mind the show, but shout outs to the person in the comment section of our preview for this that said having this event be Noche UFC and the first ever live sports event at the Sphere felt like putting a hat on top of a hat.
Yeah, nice show. That's a good one.
That's because if they had just made this UFC at the Sphere, they could have put together a better card. If they just made this Noche UFC, they could have gone to Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. You know? That's exactly how I feel. Like you didn't, it was just poor. Like, you had 2 chances to have big cards, you squeezed into one, and it was over the top. So, all right, let's go to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and Bears are a stock market reference. You want to be on the Bulls list, you don't want to be on the Bears list. We do it hockey style 3, 2, 1. Ben, you want to do Bulls first?
Yeah, let's do the Bulls.
All right,
Let's be
let's be
positive.
positive after we just bash it. I'll go first. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna start right at the first night, first fight. I'm gonna go with Rahul Rojas. I mean, the guy's 4-1 in the UFC now. I mean, the guy's 19. Like, how the kid's like, he's doing like AP classes in between like fights and stuff. Like, good for you, man. My number 2, I'm gonna go with Diego Lopez. I mean, this dude's a superstar. I really believe. I mean, he was. You know, it's hard to really. There's so many guys who come in at time and have big performances, but to actually pick a guy, like seeing the UFC really backed him, and he's just, especially in those divisions, he's just absolutely answered the call. He's the man. And my number 1, usually I give it to champions. Like if you win a title, I usually give you the number 1 spot. I'm going to give it to 2 because 2 titles took place, so it's a tie. But I'm not going to go with Shevchenko and Merab. I'm going to go with wrestling one tonight because both titles changed because of wrestling. So, Ben, what do you have?
I agree with all yours, so I'm not going to pile 3 more on top of them, but got to give a shout out to Ketlin Souza. Anytime you cash as a nearly 5-1 underdog, I mean, however you got there, that's damn impressive. And she got there by absolutely lamping Yasmin Hauergi and then choking her all the way to sleep. It was, one of the highlights of the night. Also throwing out for Norma Dumont, who, again, it's the perfect time to all of a sudden be making 135 pounds and beating people because she's only 2-0 at bantamweight, but she isn't that far from a title shot. Like it wouldn't take that much to get a title shot. So got to say stock is up for her. She took a very one-sided performance over somebody who challenged for a title last year. Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to your Bears. Yeah. So this is the list you don't want to be on.
Bears. Brian Ortega. Diego Lopez is going to beat a lot of people from here on out. You and I both think he's a threat, at least to fight for a title, but that's about as bad as Brian Ortega's looked in a while. Like it has to be a stock down moment for him, even if he was the underdog anyway.
Absolutely.
Bear, Alexa Grasso, considering that she was 1-0-1 in the series coming into this, it took something special for her to lose in a way that made it feel like Valentina won the whole series. But there you have it.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. That's we never get asked that we have to do a 4th fight. We haven't done it. We skipped over
that. I don't think we have to. Yeah, that's the thing.
It doesn't have to be settled. We can call it a tie.
And I'll throw out Sean O'Malley. O'Malley very famously refused to acknowledge his loss to Marlon Vera as a legitimate loss. Whatever you think of that, here is a loss that he's not going to be able to explain away. He's going to show his mettle one way or the other. Like he'll go back to square one, come back stronger, or he'll never recapture the mystique again. But he has a loss that he's not going to be able to really talk his way around.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you some also. My number 3, I'm going to go with Yasmin Hauergi. I mean, massive favorite and gets put to sleep. Clubbed and sub out cold for a long time. Obviously, her stock dropped. My number 2 goes similar theme. This is supposed to be the big night for Mexicans. Not counting Americans with Mexican descent. I'm talking about strictly born and raised in Mexico, Mexicans. They went 1-6 on the night.
Ooh.
With Ronaldo Rodriguez. I could be wrong. Someone double check this, but if I was counting correctly, Ronaldo Rodriguez is the only Mexican to win tonight. And I'm not counting like Rojas, who's American, who has ties. I'm talking about
Ortega is.
I'm not talking Lopez, who's Brazilian, but I'm talking about straight. This is a Mexican. They went 1-6, losing it. And also, at one time, the UFC had 3 Mexican champions. They have none now, and it wasn't that long ago. And my number 1, it might have been cool live in person, but to me, it's just fair. Like, I know they put all this money and $20 million into production and all that, and I'm sure it might have been cool, but to me it was annoying on TV, like watching on TV. Everything was taking forever. The walk-ups, I mean, how many times I got to hear about the freaking stories and about the fighting spirit, and like, I had to see the same, like, show me the same promo but just like different graphics is just not doing it for me. And then you gotta tell me like the card, because you have to do all that, it's gonna end at 2 a.m. Like, fuck off, like, don't ever go there again.
It was the longest 10 fight card
It was
ever.
10 fights. Could you imagine if it was 14?
Yeah, I enjoyed parts of it. Like the parts in between fights, some of them were pretty breathtaking, but yeah, it was a little bit of a distraction. And whatever story they were trying to tell really went off the rails by the end, because the very last scene I saw a hologram of O'Malley that looked like the rapping Tupac hologram from Coachella like 10 years ago, and then like what looked like some flying tire irons in the sky behind them. It was, yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened at the very end, but
yeah, I'm sure
if this turns,
yeah, okay.
If this turns into something the UFC does once per year, I think I would actually look forward to it.
Yeah. It'd probably be, like I said, it's probably me just being cranky. I'm very. I honestly did. It was 1:15 in the morning, and the main event didn't even start yet. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, they're fucking showing celebrities in the crowd saying, "Oh, Chuck Liddell's in the building." Like, he's at every show. Do we have to do this at 1:15 in the morning? Like, come on, dude. So like, a lot of that's on the UFC too. But I almost said, guys, I gotta go to bed. I almost said, this wasn't a debut. I'm like, Ben, you're on your own. This one. Like, all right. What was your grade?
Giving this one a C. Like, the production was slow and draggy. The top 3 fights on the card, especially the top 2 fights in the card, were just not riveting viewing. We had judging weirdness, reffing weirdness, the stuff that always bothers me. Yeah, I'd give it a C. It was an okay card on paper for a pay-per-view, and it came out okay.
Yeah, I'm going C minus. It was the action was fine up until the last 2 fights, but to me it wasn't like the best, fight card on paper, despite the arena. And yeah, drag when like, it's after 2 o'clock when the fight card ends, like, you're automatically dropping at least one full letter grade for me. So toughest question always been is, who is the listener of the night?
You know what? It was a competitive night. I had a bunch of, including some new ones. Fourth Density, definitely having some strong feelings about things. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out. Matua has been in and out of the chat all night, made me laugh a couple times, had some interesting takes on things. I'm going to give it to Matua, Rookie of the Year and MVP tonight.
All right, I'm going to go with someone who's won many times before. Just because of one comment, it caught me checking the clock and counting. It was dead on. I was counting in my head like how much sleep I'm going to get. So Ice Viking, I'll get about 2 hours sleep. So nice job, Ice Viking. So there you guys have it. We've covered all 10 fights. UFC No Chill, UFC 306. We have 2 new champions. We'll be back. We have a week off, Ben.
We have a week off.
And then,
how wonderful.
And then we'll be previewing, I don't know what card it is, but UFC Moicano versus Saint Denis.
It's UFC Paris, and it's, Moicano versus Saint Denis. 14 fights on the card. A lot of French fighters. We'll be there.
And Ben will speak as much French as possible on that card, because I'm sure
I'll do the whole thing in French if you guys want. It'll be ugly, but I'll do it.
I know you could, and I'll say bonjour. So there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks. See you then.